Oh, this is so much fun. Howdy, folks. Good morning, afternoon, evening, tea time, whatever the time it is in your part of the world. And welcome back to, well, surprise, a YouTube video. I know we don't make them often. Hybrid and I are working very hard. So, Dragonflight Alpha is officially here, and it actually got in. So, we're trying out the Dracthyr Evoker and some of my first impressions and feel about how the class is. And so far, pretty cool. So, I've already been trying out the class for a few hours now. I'll be honest, probably the most pain in the butt thing to do was setting up all my bars, because y'all know I play, obviously, really funky, right? Touchpad things. The class, as they said, is a mid-range caster as well as a healer. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, y'all know where I went on this thing. So I went for the Devastation build, which is the caster or DPS build. And then I focus in on going for some of the fire abilities over going for some of the blue abilities, like blue Dragonflight. But I like fire. Makes sense, right? The beard? Yeah, makes sense. So I already started toying around a little bit. I haven't done the intro quests for the Azure Span. I'll be doing that later on stream tonight, depending on when you're watching this. But I just started hitting some of my abilities, getting an idea of like how it feels. First off, even the filler ability being Azure Strike just feels cool. Like, it's your filler ability. It doesn't cost any mana, it doesn't cost any of your resource, and it actually helps you get free charges for some of your abilities, like, well, Disintegration. Well, Disintegrate. You know what I mean. I'm new to it, alright? I'm new to it. But even the filler ability alone has a really cool feel to it, and it's kind of like an AoE cleave. It hits about 3 targets. If you read the ability raw itself, yep, 3 targets. Project intense energy onto 3 enemies, dealing 2006 spell frost damage to them. The other thing that I've really noticed has been all these abilities have like a different class categorization on the magic for it. So some will say fire, some will say spell frost, others will say volcanic. It's very interesting different wording. And also depending on which Dragonflight that ability stems from, it will actually say it on the ability itself. So for Fire Breath, it says it comes from Red Dragonflight. For Azure Strike, it says blue. For like your defensive ability being Obsidian Scales, it says black. It's pretty dang cool. We don't have a lot of green Dragonflight abilities, since I'm currently the Devastation build. Doesn't make a lot of sense. That's more for the Renewal, I believe it's called. Preservation. Preservation is the healer one. The only one you really have right here is for Emerald Blossom, and it launches a cool little flowery thing on the ground and does some healing. The other abilities you have going into the Bronze Dragonflight, obviously Resurrection, there's some things that like help reduce some cooldowns. One ability really cool right here is called Blessing of the Bronze. Weave Threads of Time, reducing the cooldown of major movement abilities for all party and raid members by 15% for an hour. That's just your buff. You get to apply that to the raid. And the other really cool one is a raid cooldown. It's called Time Spiral. Bend time, allowing you and your allies to cast their major movement abilities once in the next 10 seconds, even if it's on cooldown. So in theory, if you pop that and like some major AoE effect is going to happen, I would imagine like abilities like Heroic Leap would get reset so that everybody can book it and get to safety. That's a really cool feel. You feel like you're really helping out your raid in some of these dynamics. But the really cool thing is like some of these. Even the casting and aiming for this, it kind of reminds me of, gosh, what was that one older game? Shucks, I lost it. Anyways, this is really cool. I like it a lot. You see it in some kind of games as this like showing exactly the field of view you're going to be channeling this ability. This is actually a root ability. It is called Landslide. So this one does cost mana. It has 10 to 40 yard range on a minute CD. It conjures a path of shifting stone towards the target location, rooting enemies for 30 seconds. I imagine that would get reduced down in PvP, but it also has the disclaimer on it saying damage may cancel the effect. So it works like standard Frost Nova would or other rooting effects. The really cool stuff, though, obviously, is this breath. This breath is super sick. And the really neat thing about it is that you're immune to movement impairing effects and CCs while doing such. And if you talent for it, you can teleport back to your location. That's huge. But it doesn't stop there. It keeps getting more and more fun. And that's just with this standard build that I made. And by standard, I mean, I went for what looked neat and was an ability, an actual ability that I could at least hit. Except for, I guess, that one. But that was a lot of the preservation stuff. In doing some of these abilities, they have chances to proc them being free from your resource being called If you delicately hover over it, essence. Used by evokers to power certain abilities, one essence recharges at a time. There you go. So some abilities will cost essence. For example, Disintegrate actually does cost 3 essence. But when you're using your filler ability being Azure Strike, you have a chance for it to get resets and make it free. So boom, you're able to cast another one. Doesn't stop there though. When you cast Disintegrate, if you were to move, it does cancel the effect like any kind of normal spell casting would. However, the Dracthyr have this cool ability. It's called Hover. Hover has a 30-second recharge and you have 2 max charges. Launch yourself and gain 30% increased movement speed for 6 seconds. It also allows the evoker to cast spells while moving. That's pretty neat. So if you want to disintegrate a target on the go, you could cast Hover and then start using it on the go, as well as other abilities like Firestorm and get that cast off. Boom. That's super neat, super cool. One of my favorite times in playing a caster was in Miss Pandaria, and a lot of classes ended up getting casting while moving abilities, like Kill Jaden's Cunning for Warlocks, or Elemental Shamans just got Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt was just something you could cast all the time while moving. Made it really fun in Battlegrounds, and probably the best time Elemental Shamans ever were fun for me, at least. This whole dynamic of playing this class feels cool. It feels fresh. It feels new. And I know that that's typically the case. It's a new class. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. It fits the vibe, like, on paper, or I guess, judging a book by its cover, I should say. It's like, okay, you're playing a dragon. But they really honed in on the ideology of being a dragon. Even though you're kind of like dragonoid, being able to just do simple things like hovering around and casting your abilities on the go, being able to launch a giant fire breath out of you across a battlefield, and then teleporting back, they really honed in on all the different Dragonflight aspects and making it feel like you're a member of all Dragonflights. Really neat, and I've been really enjoying it so much, and I haven't even gotten to PvP, and I feel like that's going to be the most chaotic time. Oh, that root is sick. It actually shows like little rock tombstones around the target. That's actually the first time I cast on an enemy. Whoops. Oh no, the parry dog! No, little dude! That's right. You don't suffer anymore. Too dark. Sorry. Anyways, you know how they have some other abilities like Wing Buffet. That's a 45-second cooldown. It's a powerful wing flap that knocks enemies back that are in front of you. So, much like Typhoon, this is what it looks like. It has that cool feel. It actually does buffet your wings, I guess you would say. The other really cool thing, you have Glide like Demon Hunters typically would have. So, let's go down here. We chose to be in Thunder Bluff because obviously there's a lot of people doing testing over at Ogre Bar. There's your Glide. It does look cool. But, as they mentioned before in the interviews, the Dracthyr are their own mount. So you do still have Dragon Riding coming into this expansion, but you also, as a Dracthyr Evoker, have the ability called Soar. So Soar is a 5-minute cooldown. It's your racial. It's a racial ability. It's a 1.5-second cast, muster the strength to launch into the air. Cooldown begins when you land. So it's not something you can like just keep hovering around and flying until it comes back off cooldown again, but this is roughly what it looks like. So Soar, launch up in the air, and then you have some abilities that you can use. You're just flying now. There's no like remaining timer on it, so if you ever want to just take off in the world, kind of like a droid flight form or something, you can. It does eventually like have you fall to the ground. You can pick up some speed. You can dive bomb a little bit. Makes it kind of neat. And you have some darting abilities to increase the speed. It's pretty cool. It feels awesome. And I know we didn't get into it, but the customization is extreme. This is what I ended up choosing for my Dracthyr. Try to go for like an infinite Dragonflight type of look. They weren't kidding about how much customization you have. I must have sat on that screen for a good 45 minutes just thinking about how I can make my character look. And I like him a lot. And of course I had to go for the red beard too. Made the most sense. But overall, I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I think it's such a cool class. I think the fantasy is there. I think it encapsulates all the Dragonflights, and it just feels fun. Obviously, that's the main goal in playing a game, right? So, I'm having a hoot of a time. And I'm going to be trying out the whole Azure Span questline tonight on stream, and hopefully I'll see you there. If you have any questions for anything Dragonflight related, you're more than welcome to comment those down below. If you have anything for testing, like questions for testing and reasonings, please feel free to comment that. This is an alpha, so this is the very, very early stages, but feedback is the most important right now than it ever could be. So please, voice your opinion on some of the aspects that are happening in the game. Even if you can't try it out yourself, comment something down below, being like, hey, can you try out this build for doing this thing? And I'll do my best to actually help you guys see what those look like and how those feel. I want to make this expansion really good, and I'm sure a lot of other folks do too. If you did like this video, make sure to smash that like button, and also make sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get this YouTube channel thing going, and now that we have content to actually produce, being that there's new stuff with Dragonflight, I'm super looking forward to making videos for this stuff. I'll see you guys in the next video.